Are you feeling overworked, overwhelmed, pulled in a million directions? Maybe you remember when I asked you that question in the beginning and you're saying, come on, Nicole, get to it. I want to know, how do I get to the other side of that? Well, we're going to get into that in this video here right now, because you know what? We can talk about your purpose. We can talk about your passion, which we did in the last video. And this is kind of like what you want to create for your life and what you're passionate about. But we're going to talk about these pit stops and roadblocks and the detours on the road, right? How do you deal with that? Because the reality is they're going to come up. There's no way of avoiding it. It's funny because when we look at life, we want it to be this smooth journey, right? And what does it usually look like more accurately, right? It's like, you start off here and then you go this way and then you come around here, or is it just me that is familiar with this? It's like, how many of you feel like you're going around in circles all the time? Well, there is a way out of this chaos, okay? There's a way out of this chaos. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with the storms of life? And so that's what we're going to talk about here today. Now, the first thing you need to do, there's three things you need to do when you're in chaos. And this actually comes from, there's actually a model, it's called the power model. How do you go from invisible to power in business? And I've taught that many times, and it's a very fascinating way of looking at business and the phases of business. I learned it from one of my mentors, Blair Singer, so I want to give credit to him. And I've extracted it from that to talk about it here today, because every business gets into this stage of chaos, right? I mean, it's like you get to that, it's like feast and famine. It's like we're too busy, we can't keep up, and then we've got these dead zones of just like nobody knows what to do. Or maybe it's you're running out of cash flow and you're trying to manage through a tight cash flow. In relationships, it's the same thing that happens in relationships, right? What does chaos look like in relationships? Well, there's this constant miscommunication. It doesn't matter what you do, it just doesn't seem to be making it any better. In fact, it might actually even be making it worse. In your health, another area that there's chaos oftentimes. We experience this chaos when we're sick a lot. It's like we're always getting sick. There's always one thing after the other after the other. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know, I've had that in my life, and all those areas, business, relationships, and in health, where I've experienced this chaos. And, it just feels like I just can't get ahead. So that's why I really want to share this with you. I mean, we can talk about how to be profitable and looking at your numbers and all of those things and the strategies of business. And I definitely do that when I work with clients. But here, the foundational, what I'm teaching you through these videos is the foundational piece that all of that sits upon. So once you have these foundational pieces in place, then the rest is a piece of cake, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's going to take work, but it's so much easier because you've got these foundational pieces in place. And that's what I want to give you here through this video series. So, and you can apply it to any area. Again, business, or it could be in relationships, in your personal life, could be in your health. Okay? So now, there are three things you need to do to be able to navigate through the chaos. Imagine you're on this journey, right? We're on this journey together. So on that journey, have you ever, depending on where you live, you might experience some weather changes, maybe some weather patterns, maybe you end up with some fog. What do you do? Just think about it. You're in a car and you're driving along and you got your family in the car maybe, or maybe you're by yourself or with a friend, and you're driving along, and then there's like this fog comes over, and or maybe there's chaos and there's an accident. How do you deal with this? Okay, no more suspense. You're like, Nicole, give it to me. What are the three things? Well, the first thing is just in that situation, exactly the same thing like when you're in a car and you're in the fog, is you want to be able to focus. If there's an accident ahead, you got to be able to focus. You focus on where you want to go. Comes back to what we were talking about earlier. We were talking about what you focus on expands. You focus on where you want to go. So in business, what does this look like? Well, in business, you got to focus your product line. You got to focus on what you're really good at, which is why I talked about the shape in the previous video. It's like you want to focus on what are the things that I'm really good at as a person, And or if you have a team and an organization, you want to focus on what are the things that we collectively are really, really good at. Focus in on those areas. When you're in chaos, that's where you want to focus. This is not the time to open up new locations and expand your horizons and all that, because all you'll do is create more chaos, because you have whatever is going on right now isn't settled, it isn't stable, and so you'll just add more chaos to the picture. And I've seen this so many times. I mean, I'm as a business coach, I have worked with clients, thousands of clients over the years, over different, I think 4 or 5 continents. And no matter what the culture, no matter what, it's like seriously, it is no matter what the market, it is seriously, it is the same thing. I've seen this happen so many times where business owners, they get into this stage of chaos and they go one of two ways. Either they're like, oh, we got to expand, you know, that's our clue and that's our sign into expanding into different areas, and maybe we need to change our direction. For some, it's, you know, it's coming back to the mindset piece that we were talking about. You know, it's maybe I'm not cut out for this. What's the conversations that are going on in your head when you're in chaos? It's like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I shouldn't have been doing it. Maybe I heard God wrong and I shouldn't have quit my job and started this business. I mean, you are from, you know, people are familiar with that. So again, you want to focus. You want to focus on your future. You want to focus on where you're going. So you've got to, and even like race car drivers, they'll tell you that you don't want to be focusing on when you get into a spin, you don't want to be focusing on the wall because you're going to hit the wall, right? Same thing in business, same thing in relationships, same thing in your health. Focus where you want to go. Now, the next piece to this is systems. You got to have some systems in place, right? So what kind of systems do you need to have in place? If you think about from a business standpoint, well, marketing systems, sales systems, operational systems, delivery systems. When you're in chaos, people are just scrambling to try to figure out how to do things. Cash flow systems. You gotta work with what you've got, and you gotta organize it so that you can move forward and continue to focus where you're going. And you're gonna navigate your team and lead them through. So systems, it could be in your relationship. Maybe there are some systems that need to be put in place that maybe you've been neglecting some relationships at home. You've spent so much time on your business that you haven't been focusing on those primary relationships, your home team. You haven't been focusing there as much. And so having some systems in place, the scheduling and daily habits that you spend time with your spouse or your children or even yourself. Spending that time so that you can regroup, that you can refocus. Coming back to the focus, right? How do you refocus when you're in chaos? Well, you got to get present and get quiet with yourself, get grounded and saying, okay, what am I doing? Why am I here? Where am I going? And what's my steps to get there? Systems help you so that you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You know, every time it's like, okay, what do we do now? How do we do this? How do we do that? Then you're always in the question. You're always in the question of chaos and how do we do this? You're always reinventing the wheel. And so put systems in place. Look at your structure of your business and say, okay, where can we systematize? Where can we document? What are our best practices? When we do these things, life works. When we do these things, things flow. Things, go really well. Okay, let's document those things. Those are our, best practices. You document them. I've actually worked with a lot of companies that they have an owner's manual or like an operational manual, and yet nobody looks at it, right? But those, in theory, those are the operational manual. That's the process and the systems that guide people in how to grow the business, how to behave and interact with each other. Here's another thing is you want to have systems for communication within the team, right? Meeting schedules and debriefing schedules and these types of things. So again, look at it and saying, okay, what can we systematize? What's working, which we can document that and repeat that so that can become a repeatable pattern. What's not working, where maybe we need some systems in place. Maybe you need to put it on the schedule, like literally put it in your calendar with you and your spouse that you're going to have a date night once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week, whatever it is, whatever is going to work. I'm going to spend time with my children. Each one of my children, I'm going to spend time with them so that, and collectively together, so I make sure that I'm getting that quality time in, right? where, sometimes life gets so busy and you realize, wow, we haven't done anything for such a long time because there was no system in place to make that happen. For your health, if you notice, I'm talking about 3 areas, right? Business or money, vocation, relationships, and health, 3 major areas of our life. In your health, think about and say, okay, well, what kind of systems can I put in place? Maybe it's meal preparation, so that you're planning ahead, so that once a week you just do all the meal planning, so that you know that week you've got it all laid out. You know what you're going to be eating, and it's going to have variety and all that, but it's going to be healthy and it's going to fill you because you are what you eat, right? So you put meal planning in place. Maybe it's having snacks ready so that you're not finding yourself halfway during the day and you're starving and you're going between meetings and you're just saying, I don't have any food, and so you grab the closest fast food place, which it's handy, it's convenient, but it may not be the healthiest choice for you. So you put systems in place in your life that I call it the winning strategy. It's like, what is it that when you do those things on a daily basis, life works? And when you don't do those things, life doesn't work. That becomes a system, okay? So systems is the next one. And the third, and probably even the most important, because it all rises, success all rises and falls on leadership, is this area, right? So leadership. So you got to be able to, when you're navigating all this chaos, you got to be able to lead your team through the chaos. You got to be able to get your family to the other side. You got to be able to get yourself to the other side. So again, this comes back to you being grounded. Take the time for yourself to be able to be grounded and to know and say, okay, what am I doing? Where am I? Why am I doing this? Or why are we doing this? Where are we going with this? And then what is it going to take for me to be the leader that I need to be? How can I inspire my team to follow me on this journey? If your relationships maybe are suffering, you're going to need to inspire them and enroll them in your vision of what you're looking to create with them. Not in spite of them, but with them. How are you? Okay, so listen, this is what I'm creating. I remember when my parents got started in a secondary business when I was young. And I said to them, what are you doing? Because they were out all the time. And in the evenings, and they sat us down and they cast the vision. This is where we're going. This is why we're doing it, and we're all going to win together. That's all it took for me and my brother to say, sounds good, we're in, let's do this, right? And so what can I do? That was my next question. It's like, what can I do to help? Because I see the vision, I see what it's going to mean for you as my parents, also what I was going to see that it was going to mean for us as a family. And I got that. And that's great leadership. Right? And then we put systems in place, and then we had the focus where we could make something happen. We worked together as a team to make it happen. It was so very rewarding. So you don't have to choose between family and your business. You don't have to choose between, even if that's a career, explaining to your kids, why you're doing the things you're doing, why you're working late at night. It's temporary because one day this is what we're going to create. You know what? And you can help me, or you can help. Maybe they can help around the house, or they can help by being, helpful with your other spouse who may be at home, that kind of thing. So there's some communication that happens there that makes it work. And so leadership, and reminding your team of why you're there. There's also another piece to this, which I could do a whole video, I could do a whole training on it, and I do that, when I have an academy that I'm developing, where there's going to be a course on this alone. It's such a huge topic. But for the purposes of right now, just think about what are the standards by which you play the game. What are your standards of behavior? What are your core values? First of all, you can ask yourself, what are my core values? And then how do I live out those core values? And for your team, ask yourself, okay, what are our collective core values, whether that's the work team, business team, or home team? What are our core values? What's most important to us? And then what are the standards, or how do we live out those? What are the rules of the game? So maybe the rules of the game, or how you communicate with each other, is we are always supportive of each other and our endeavors, or maybe it's about being on time, or maybe it's about taking responsibility, and there's no blaming and justifying. There's certain standards of behavior, right, that every single winning team has. And as the leader, this is your role, part of your role is to implement this and to inspire your team to actually play by the same set of rules, right? And to hold court for them, okay? Hold the space for them, especially, and the reason why I'm bringing it up here is especially when you're going through chaos. I mean, you actually want to have these standards put in place before you get into chaos, so that when you have chaos, everybody knows the rules. You know, it's not like when you're in the heat of a game that you're like, the coach is not saying, hey, I think we should do this. They did that in practice well before, as they prepared for the game. It's how you practice is how you play. But if you're in chaos right now, there's no better time to sit the team together and saying, okay, what's going on right now? Where are we? Where are people getting frustrated? Where is the breakdown in communication? And start to create some systems, right? Try to create those standards that you can all agree to play by, and so there's no misunderstandings, there's no, mismanaged expectations. That's where a lot of frustration between teams comes in, and where people start jumping ship is if they're not clear on the vision. They don't see a pathway through the chaos. They feel like this is never going to end, and there's no systems, and it's disorganized, and there's no clear leadership through it, and there's no standards of behavior. So on the alternative, when you have those things in place, you can navigate that chaos beautifully. And it's going to take time, it's going to take patience. You may want to hire a coach or somebody that is has that outside perspective that can look in and saying, hey, because you're so in it, you're so close to it, you're saying, hey, have you thought of it this way? Or they can help you to navigate, to point you in the right direction, and remind you of why you're doing it in the first place. So you could hire a coach that will help you do that. I know I've done that for people, and it's been amazing. All levels of success and in all different situations, whether it be personal or in business. And it's been an amazing journey. So, you can find somebody that can actually do that for you and help you. You'll get there so much faster. So I hope that has been helpful to you. Focus, systems, and leadership. How do you navigate and get through the chaos out to the other side? Okay? So that's it for this video. In our next video, I talked a little bit about this before. We're going to talk about how to deal with people. So if you're on the journey, remember we were talking about personality. If you're on this journey, you're going to have roadblocks, you're going to have detours, things that are going to show up. But what else is going to show up? People. Lots and lots of people are going to show up. In business, every business is a people business. So how do we deal with difficult people? How do we deal with different personalities? We're going to talk about that in the next video, and it's super, super important. So do stay tuned, because you're going to learn a lot about yourself, you're going to learn a lot about other people, how you build better relationships and more effective teams. So we'll see you there.